It is the final day of group stage play here at the Blizzard Arena, where in Group D, we just saw a convincing victory from the team from Korea, reigning champions from BlizzCon last year, Ballistix, over Team Expert. They advanced to our winners match to face SPT, first seed out of China. One of these two teams will be going to BlizzCon. Let's head over to James and the crew at the desk to get their thoughts.
Thank you, Gloken. To achieve something when I'm young so I can brag about it when I'm old, as we heard from Misaka just then. And I think, Gilly, it's great to kind of just get a glimpse into their lives and, you know, how they've kind of got here in the process.
Yeah, SPT has been a dominant force now for Chinese heroes for quite a while, but I equate them to Tempo Storm in the North American region, where they're this band of misfits, these players from different teams that were down and out, whether they were kicked from a team or the team disbanded, and then they came together, and now they're at the top of their region, but can they go further?
Yeah, you know, it feels like what they say about is a band of failures. I think it's true, but not failures because of their individual plays, but failures because their teams failed to have success.
Yeah.
It feels like the name Super Perfect Team is very fitting for this roster of 5 men. It's basically the super team created from 5 different teams. There were legends in China. Everyone knows E-Star, Edward Gaming, Spring Finals last year. Teams like X Team, not really on the big stages anymore. This roster looks to be the best Chinese team, but I do think they will struggle now against Ballistix.
Let's check in with the bracket, see exactly how things have gone down thus far, as well as what's to come here for Group D. 2-0-2-0 as our 2 teams fall to the lower bracket and 2 teams advance on. Later on, we're going to have Soul Torturers going up against Team Expert, but next up, it is SPT going up against Ballistix. And guys, Jay, how what you watched from Ballistix there was actually just such sturdiness that was very tough to crack.
Completely methodical. Everything about what they do is with purpose, and that's something that studying this team coming in last year, obviously a few different members, but the core values of this team have not changed at all. They prefer to play the more macro style. They're not afraid to take a team fight because they can't avoid it against MVP Black, right?
Yeah.
But in their region, this is what they do, and it's so decisive. Everything that they do is with purpose, and that's the one thing that you can see whenever they're rotating. It's going to do something, not just 1 step, but 2, 3, 4 steps beyond that. They have a definitive plan no matter what battleground, no matter what the composition, they always know what they're trying to do.
Gilly, how did you see that series? You were host, so you didn't really get to do well. So I want to hear your opinion.
Okay, well, I would love to give it. I think what was especially telling for Ballistix is not that they were that dominant on Dragonshire. Dragonshire suits the Korean meta very well. We know that Korean teams have had a lot of practice and experience and learned from MVP Black, who's the best on it. But to be that dominant on a place where the European meta is traditionally stronger and has been for a long time, Tomb of the Spider Queen, I felt that was telling of how strong Ballistix is. And frankly, I don't know if we're even going to see a team take a game off of them. I think they're going to be able to make it through just like MVP Black did.
Yeah, I think that also Expert took the wrong approach to that series. I don't think they understood Ballistix strengths as a Korean team. I think they looked at them as a Korean team almost generically rather than looking at Ballistix strengths specifically.
Yeah.
That Li Ming ban on Dragonshire, very telling of that, because on Dragonshire, Ballistix, otherwise known as L5, would never have picked Li Ming. Always need a strong soul laner there. That was the Dahaka go-to, perhaps the Malthael. So yeah, I think that Ballistix, they took Expert a little bit by surprise. Looking at Super Perfect Team, though, I feel like they had some lucky moments. Their run through Soul Torturers wasn't easy. I think that's why, as you say, we have to kind of look at this as like it's potentially that 2-0 coming through. Ballistix looks to be on a higher level right now.
Well, let's focus on Ballistix, our first team coming into this next best of 3. And this best of 3 determines who moves on to BlizzCon. So Ballistix as a whole, they are our current defending BlizzCon champions, and they're looking very mighty in this group.
Yeah, I mean, Noble S is gone, right? He's now coaching MVP Black. The holes filled here by SDE for Nacho Jin, and of course for Hooligan for Noble S, I feel like they're starting to slowly live up to the legends.
They're starting to live up to a legend. Speaking of legends, SC
Yeah.
is a living legend in our game. And Gilly was talking about Nick on the other side for Expert, statistically one of the strongest players out there. But also when you look at the Korean region, 2 names come to mind for ranged assassins. That's Reset and SC.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
kills per game, there's nobody better in the entire world than those 2 players.
It doesn't just stop at Heroes of the Storm when it comes to SC, Gilly.
Oh no, he has been in a couple of different games.
Yeah.
What did he do in StarCraft?
The legendary series
He was a
against
Terran.
ST.
Yeah.
Terran player. Very, very strong. He's a very storied player. He's been around since realistically like 2010 in esports, so 7 years. And he's the only player on this roster that's been in all 3 BlizzCons since 2015. DK, aka TNL, then Ballistix last year, and now in 2017, Ballistix again.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention, is that you originally had the TNL, the Team DK roster, and SC has been around since then, which is a long time, and he's been through these different roster swaps now, but still this constant person who is there representing Korea at the highest level in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, very few people that have been to every single BlizzCon since the start of Heroes of the Storm, unless you discount the very first one, which was Invitation, of course. Let's take a look at SPT on the other side of things, as we do have them staring down the face of what we can consider the hardest challenge in this group, I feel.
SPT, it's important to remember, has sort of evolved beyond what we see as Chinese meta in Heroes of the Storm. In fact, both of these teams, Ballistix and SPT, are teams known for their rotations, their objective-based play in their respective regions. So we could be seeing a lot slower of games, a lot more calculation in the rotations, because SPT has not only been evolving to that style, despite everybody else being more of the team fight focus still, but even from that, teaching some of the other teams, we've started to see their presence on both how CE was playing and even BTG.
And that's the thing that they said in their videos, that they feel in their region they can control the pace of a game.
Yes.
And if you ever wanted to test your mettle to see if you could control the pace of a game, Ballistix is the team that you could go against to do that. We actually saw some very good rotations, Caldor and I did, on the Towers of Doom. We saw the rotations kind of disrupting the pace, getting into their rhythm, as they said, with trying to get into the rhythm with the sub that they have, trying to make sure that they can control that and play the way that they want to play. And this is going to be one hell of a test here.
Yeah, I think the reason why Ballistix had such a great time on those 2 maps against Team Expert was the control of wave clear. They had Dahaka in the top lane, had Rhaegar rotating up there to force the rotations up from Curson on the Brightwing, on Dragonshire, and we had the double DPS wave clear on Tomb. So controlling the soul lane, controlling the wave clear could be one way to try to stop this team.
All right, let's check in with the cheers to see how things are going on in the HGC universe over in the land of Twitch chat, as we have 26 million cheers, 650,521. We need our deadly Chaos Lizard, because I think I have about 50 plus mounts. I don't have enough. I still need more. That's how it works.
You need the deadly Calaris Lizard now.
The deadly Calaris Ginger Chaos Lizard.
I don't even believe you. I think you have at least 100.
I have a lot. There's very few I don't have, now that I think about it. I just pulled 50 out of the air.
What's your favorite mount, though?
Ooh, the Unhappy Cloud.
Me too.
There's some new ones.
That's my favorite mount.
Yes.
Nope. The new Hallows End ones, I instantly went and just purchased all of them right away.
The horse that's painted like a horse?
Yeah.
It's a good mount.
It's too good.
It's a good mount. So the big question is that where are we going to go here for this first game in this series? Obviously, this best of 3. So let's find out which battleground we're going to head to and who has chosen. SPT chooses Cursed Hollow. Whew.
Really hoping that at some point we're going to see Dragonshire between these 2 teams. Obviously, we saw Dragonshire and how good Ballistix were on it in the last series versus Expert, but that is also SPT's best battleground. They put a lot of thought into who they're going to put inside the Dragon Knight, how they even take team fights with the Dragon Knight, but I'm also excited to see Cursed Hollow between the 2.
Yeah, Cursed Hollow is always a Korean favorite. You think about Ballistix, aka L5, being more focused on Dragonshire. People say sometimes they're inferior to Black on the map, but it's been a go-to map for them for forever. It's a map they took us to against Expert in Game 2. So I think going into Cursed here, I like this map for Super Perfect Team because it's not directly 100% related to rotational play and the wave clear we talked about earlier.
All right, time to get into it. This best of 3 determines who gets #1 seed out of this group and makes it to BlizzCon, J-How.
Curious to see here for Ballistix how high we might see Tyrael, and it could go either way on either team, whether it comes in as a ban. I think it's going to be a high priority on this battleground in particular, as we see the Abathur instantly being taken away. No funny business here. Ballistix wants none of it.
Tyrael is a question for me for Ballistix, since they have been picking it a lot high before bans, but Karzium, I'm also wondering where that will be. Pretty fast first few bans and picks with the Abathur and Tassadar response ban, and then a pickup of Genji, which means you're going to get SCSC's Genji, aren't we?
Looks like it. There was no involvement of Genji whatsoever in the series versus Soul Torturers, so this is a complete change-up here. I don't think it's related to SPT more than SC does want to play the hero. It's a hero you can do a lot with, doesn't have to necessarily be the solo DPS carry. But one of the things Genjis do well on this map, and we even see in Korea the Shuriken Mastery build here often, is poking, controlling objectives to buy time for the rotational play, the solo lane, the split pushing, these kinds of things is what Ballistix loves to do on this map more than boss timings, camp timings like MVP Black does. So I like this Genji pick. It's flexible, and they can move around this now in terms of controlling those objectives.
SPT doesn't play a lot of Cursed Hollow since the Chinese regional is more about, or Chinese HGC is all best of 2 format. All of the teams have more heavy emphasis on just a few maps. They're going to get to Haka. That is a standard pick for Soap and a really good one for him. He was hitting a lot of drags, although had trouble with some isolations versus Soul Torturers, but it felt like they were kind of still warming up.
I liked Muradin for Misaka in the previous series as well. Very sustainable build going into healing at 16, so being able to kind of live so long, win the longer fight through self-sustain was really working for them. And again, you deny this pick from Hooligan. He made big waves against Expert with that control. And as you're going back to, we're going to see this Tyrael here, great for boss control.
Great boss control, great all around post 16. We know what Holy Ground does in the choke points here on Cursed Hollow. But Brightwing, the pickup, we talked about Karazim, it's been high priority for them as of late. They end up going Brightwing. It might not be the only support that plays in here, so we'll see if that does end up on the back end of the draft. But definitely the Tyrael dive in with the Genji there. Make sure you get the Sanctification down, because as it stands, Dahaka, Muradin, very safe, but they both have a decent amount of crowd control between them. So if the Genji comes in there, get that extra protection, get in there with a Brightwing. There's a lot that you can do with this early composition of Ballistix.
Yeah, by the end of the part, Ballistix have been shifting away somewhat from double support on this battleground and playing more hyper-aggressive compositions with things like Tyrael, Sonya, Genji, Karazima altogether than a Falstad to pace out the fights.
Yeah.
So we may be seeing more of that kind of play for them, being able to just have a really strong presence, dive in on whatever SPT wants as that hyper carry that Xinjiao plays.
I think you're really onto something here. I think the Rhaegar ban that might come through here is a bit of a trap. Okay, Illidan ban coming through. We know how good Zhangha is on Illidan and how we can use that as a global hero. I don't think that's the angle that Ballistix is looking towards here, though, to look for like a DPS top lane, go double support here. So I thought they might ban the Rhaegar, thinking, okay, they're just going to try to hyper carry this Genji, use Rhaegar. So many Koreans use Rhaegar on this map to control the camps and the wave clear and things like that. But going to the Illidan ban here, I think Ballistix still has the opportunity to pick up that Falstad to have this double global. We talk about Brightwing bombs all the time here too with Genji. I really like what Ballistix has set up.
This is China.
That's true.
Okay.
Yep.
One of the Illidan, one of the best counters towards a very macro-heavy hero known as Zagara. And it's something that we haven't seen in a while. It's something that the Chinese meta, if you go back to the first Eastern Clash, it's like, wait a minute, Zagara came out, and also North America started to adapt, and then she fell back out of the meta. I'm not saying it's a high priority, but it's a possibility that if you want to try and get that global control kind of out-rotate, out-macro Ballistix, they already have Dahaka, so it seems a little less likely, but I'm trying to just kind of wrap my head around the Illidan pick in particular, but Zhangha, obviously a threat.
It feels like it goes back to Ballistix playstyle in BlizzCon last year, not so much their playstyle in HGC Korea, because in the league in Korea, we don't see Illidan play all too much anymore, especially in Phase 2. But Zhangha was famous for being one of the first players actually going into BlizzCon and into Gold Club World Championship at the end of the year to use the hunt on even maps like Warhead Junction. So feels like some respect given to Zhangha here, but not necessarily for this draft the best man.
Now, I'm a little concerned because with the Greymane ban, my worry for SPT was that they would not be adapting more to playing Greymane, but then Xinjiao did play it versus ST and played it very well. But with that gone, I think SPT are going to head back into having him play Vala. He also plays some Tracer with Tastar, but in their banning TAS, I'm still expecting Vala here, and they're going to pair that with Ariel. And there's a lot of ways to still be able to dive on a Vala in what Ballistix is going for so far.
I think that the last pick here for SPT can easily be the Uther. Helps shut down Genji with your point-click stun. That's why Ballistix was considering the Uther ban here over the Greymane. But now for Ballistix, what do they do? If they want to try to fight head-to-head against this hyper carry Vala, then we're going to see them take the secondary support, have hyper carry Genji. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to go down the Dignitas route, pick up a Falstad here, and again, just try to control this map out, do the Haka in terms of globals.
I wondered the same thing, and then I look over at Brightwing, and I'm thinking, do they want to double down on that? I mean, I think that's be a really good strategy. It's something that they've played before as well. Go into the Falstad, give you that range damage dealer, give you the global control, obviously the double global at that point. Will that kind of fit into the style that you want? We're going to find out as they've got just a few seconds left here on the last 2 picks.
I mean, we can see things like Morales on this map with the Hypercarry Genji. We've seen it from Black. We've seen it from Ballistix. What's it going to be?
Sonya Karazim.
All right.
Keeping it. Go with what you know.
Go with what you know.
So that still does give the flexibility of a couple of different support options for the team, but we know Karazim can just as easily be somebody who dives along and is able to give the damage to the team.
So Genji, sir, he's still quote-unquote the hypercarry range DPS, but both your solo laner and your secondary support are DPS oriented. They're not DPS in terms of like just being straight up an assassin, but they do a lot of damage, so it supplements Genji in that way.
When I was talking about would the Brightwing be that supplemental global that you were talking about in the Falstad role, and this is an identical draft. You just swap out Falstad for Brightwing, you fall into the double support meta. You've got the global still, which they love globals on big battlegrounds. It's something that they're known for on Cursed Hollow Sky Temple, to always have that global priority. They get all of that and then some in a very good draft that we know that they've run in the past and not too long ago.
Does SPT swing back the other way to a Falstad here? I don't think so. I think they're going to try to fight tooth for tooth here, Vala versus that Genji with an Uther pick or a Morales pick. Zarya, a little bit different, but still similar type of idea.
Yeah, and something that they are willing now and again to get, as well as kind of all of the Chinese teams. We've seen that be done even by E-Star before. They were at the mid-season brawl. Every once in a while, Tiger would pick up a Zarya. But we've got Zarya to help out the Vala there.
Yeah, give some shields. Potential for push as well, like strong potential for push if they really want it down the line. But looking at how this couples up, obviously Sonya has been on our minds a lot when it comes to this tournament. How do you think she's just going to fare in this game? I think she's great in the hands of Ballistix, no?
I think they will destroy the top lane. Zarya isn't going to be able to help per se, and this comp doesn't have much in terms of ganking. I think Misaka's playstyle on the Muradin is not to try to punish a pushed lane from a Sonya, whereas in Korea you see a Muradin in a game with Sonya like this. When Sonya pushes, the Muradin rotates up, signs with the support. They'll have a global to gank with that because Dahaka is the global, so I think he's really going to struggle there, and I think that's kind of going to be the early game dominant factor for Ballistix.
I will say this feels a little bit like North America, a little bit like Team Liquid from Europe, things like that, is that you just kind of keep Muradin middle. He can rotate to the 3-man if needed. Dahaka goes wherever. They keep the 3-man of Ariel, Vala, Zarya, and they just try and push that. And I look on the other side, I'm thinking, like, the anti-siege potential is not really there. Karazim, Tyrael, Brightwing, Genji don't exactly scare me when I see the threat. Obviously, if they try and dive the back line and fight, that's a different story, but that's, again, why you have Dahaka. He can always brush Stalker down, turn that 3-on-3, 3-on-4 into a 4-on-4.
Yeah, Ballistix, though, is often one that is totally fine with just trading out on structures, on early push, especially on Cursed Hollow, to make sure that they can just keep up with that. They are good at assessing whether they need to stop that push or just try to push as hard as they can and then keep someone safe who will be safe there. And on the topic of Jungha Sonya, so far he is unbeatable in part 2 with it.
Fair play. Let's see if we can continue that trend. You can vote over on Twitter as well with the hashtags. Make sure to hashtag HGC as well as @Heroes Esports as we almost are ready for our next match here. Remember, this best of 3 determines who's going to get first place seed going out of Group D into BlizzCon as our commentator team is ready. So let's head over to them to find out who is going to be victorious.
Ballistix and SPT in the winter finals here. Skimmy, did you think this would be the matchup we would have?
I mean, we saw what happened earlier today between SPT and the Soul Torturers. It was a well-fought game, which could have gone back and forth, but this one I think is going to be a little bit more lopsided in favor of Ballistix.
Well, I'm excited to see what will be occurring, because I agree. I expected Expert to put up more of a fight against Ballistix, but the question is Ballistix that good, or was Expert having a bad game? And now we get to find out what that answer is going to be, as we have a composition without the double support. We have a Zarya instead.
We do indeed. It's all about looking after that Vala as we jump into Cursed Hollow. Game number 1 between these two teams in that best of 3. This decides who goes to BlizzCon, all importantly for that number 1 seed. A lot on the line here, especially for the Chinese team here, as the last representative from that region.
Exactly. There is no Chinese representation going to Anaheim as of yet. SPT will be the last chance for that to happen. So let's go ahead and move on into it. Here on the left side in the blue, we're going to have Jonghwa playing Sonya, SC on Genji, Swoy playing Brightwing, SDE playing Karazim, and one of my favorite tank players, Hooligan on Tyrael.
A lot of Western fans after his shout-out when they took the Eastern Clash. But on the right-hand side, this is none other than Super Perfect Team, led by Misaka on Muradin, Sa on Oriel, Soap on Dahaka. Melody C on the Zarya. Xin Xiao on the Vala.
Already, we have Zarya building into the grenade build, and while it can make sense, obviously you want to be able to have that poke available to you and of course apply some damage to a back line when you're sitting near your Vala. Some do have to question, would you rather go for Feel the Heat, which is something that requires you to stand forward and hold your ground. So with the Murder and Dahaka, it's possible. However, Melody C showing that their indication here is to build everything into the Vala. When you have someone like Xin Zhao playing, not a bad strategy.
I mean, much the same as SCSC is used to when he plays their hero. They're looking to try and put those resources there and say, if you get the ball rolling, the kills will come on in and we can go for this trade, which is happening right now. Towers in the top lane being assaulted. The response from Ballistix right now is let's do the same in that middle lane.
That they are, working on the middle. Dahaka pushing the bottom side. Zero can hold that lane, but won't be able to control it. Dahaka should, throughout time, override him with his ability to push forward, so some help will have to head down there. And Sonya is already on her way. Meanwhile, on the top, here is a strength of a Ariel Vala plus Zarya composition. They shred through lanes here as they deal with the minion wave, deal with the turrets, breaking down the walls, and already applying some damage to the fort.
Absolutely, not going to win that trade out as Ballistix did back away from the middle lane, so the assault continues. The knee-jerk reaction, if you will, from Ballistix has to come across. Two members rotating on up to try and deal with them. But SPT have the game sense to realize that something is awry. They can't see them on the map right now. Going to start to scout things out with those grenades, and rightfully so.
Yeah, smart play there by SPT. The moment two members disappear from the battleground, they go ahead and play a bit safe. Even on the bottom, Dahaka did the same with Soap here coming on the back. And until they actually scouted that Genji with a grenade, he was not overstepping any bounds. Finally, with SPT, seeing that Genji has walked away from the bushes, they step forward, but this may cause some trouble here as Ballistix is looking for a fight.
Yeah, they still have not revealed. SCSC now going to lead that charge as SDE gets amongst it as well, looking for that first blood in. 2 minutes is the call as the polymorph is there, and Sar falls to the floor.
Ariel flung across the map there. SPT down 1-0 in kills already, and this is big news for Ballistix. With that rotation, they could naturally peel over and start to work on those giants, where SPT doesn't have the same favor on their side. They have no one that can peel away from their lane and grab giants. So Ballistix, with a small maneuver, gain a massive lead.
That's what we were discussing during that draft there, Trick. We were thinking that Zarya pick was going to be the Rhaegar to patch that weakness, allow them to go for this 2-minute giant camp, which is now being acquired by Ballistix, in part between both SDE and SCSC. And it's going to spawn in that top-hand side as well, so if they do get a favorable trade, they get the tribute as well, they can look to siege up and try and even out the assault that happened just before.
Yeah, SPT lucks out here too. Have the tribute spawn on the bottom side, Ballistix could feint and engage on that bottom right and test and look for those mercenaries. But with the spawn in the top right corner, they have to play a little bit more safe and work towards the tribute. They'll go ahead and grab it now, and then we get into a spot where our teams will have lanes pushing out. Now Sonya on the bottom is doing work against Dahaka, requiring Zarya to come down and help out.
They actually do respond. They completely sacrifice this top one by going for the bottom. There's going to be the poly in. So the phase shift in as Jonghao receives a lot of damage. He's running for his life. He cannot juke left or right quick enough. Sonya falling to the floor, and that should allow SPT to try and find some fantastic value with the Giants to respond to what Ballistix are doing so far here.
And that shield was important, Skimmy. If that shield wasn't available, Dahaka may have gone down to the turrets pushing his way. So Zarya being the savior of Russia, and of course this game for SPT. 7 right around the corner here. Xin Zhao's getting lower and lower, and help with Swoy may have overstepped, and he does. Brightwing falls.
Talk about windows of opportunities. Look how close that XP bar for Ballistix is until level 7. Only just hitting it right now. Timing it out quite well for this tribute. We'll be spawning in at 10 seconds to coincide with the fact that Swale will be back up then as well. But that's what SPT need to try and do. And you can see it's a bit of a game of, I suppose, calculated chess with people going for the top lane assault, the bottom lane assault, trying to always abuse any chance they can get.
SPT is really reading the map pretty well right now. When the tribute spawned, it was down to the bottom left, and if you had mounted up, you had a Murd that could distract a little bit. Zarya was near the corner, could come over and poke and slow down that tribute. But they decide, okay, we've killed a Brightwing, there's going to be no one in this lane to defend for a while. They take a fort in the top left corner. Ballistix comes in and gets a dive on the middle of the fort, by the way, and gets a kill. Nicely done.
I mean, they kill Muradin as well, right? As you're talking there, 3 members say what tower, what gate, what fort, that is ours for the taking, and they collapse.
Looks like SPT's game plan is to play the battleground, and Ballistix are bringing the aggression. Typically, you don't have this aggression really popping in too much, unless it's around a Sonya, but they're making it work here with Tyrael and Genji diving behind enemy lines. They're finding these number advantages and punishing SPT heavily.
1 tribute in the top and 1 tribute in the bottom lane, so it's all to guess here. It's going to spawn in that bottom right corner. both of these teams are relatively even when it comes to the XP field.
Dahaka and Brian on the top here. SPT should be able to contest this. In fact, they need to contest this. Giving up an early tribute will allow Ballistix to take that level 10 early and make a play for a boss afterwards. So they go ahead and start the channel. Misaka leading the charge. Now, Zarya has spent her entire time working on the mercenary camps in the middle, so SPT knows they'll have to Zarya to come down and be in the fight while they'll be able to bring Dahaka in when need be. So Ballistix needs to make a call.
Be too surprised if we try and see a slow aggression, given that teams are quite close to level 10. Both the Globals are still in that top lane. Bit of a skirmish does break out in the bot.
Scammy, Ballistix is flirting around here. 9.5 in experience here for SPT. We bring the Brightwing in. They have made the call. They're going for Melody, and they're going to get it on the backside. But SPT, they answered back by getting Karazim.
Support for support right now as both Karazim and Zarya drop on down. You can see Jonga spinning to win right now, getting a lot of value out of that well when he's going to get polymorph, but it's not going to be enough. Oriole falls on through.
SE. He's next. He gets focused here. The isolation coming out. The final auto attack. And Xin Zhao on the Vala delivers death.
That he does, protected or not only protected for a brief instance as the Hungering Arrow finds its mark and snipes for that 5th kill as they look to try and take out Swoi now. The stun does land. Emerald Win might just be enough, however, Trick.
The last second Emerald Win will keep Swoi alive, but still, what was that? 3 kills? 4 kills that happened there for SPT, winning out on the team fights. And just to put that in perspective, 6 minutes and a half, and we have a total of 10 kills, Skimmy.
I mean, we saw a very passive engage to start off the Ballistix and Expert series, but we are coming into 2 Eastern teams that know straight aggression, and they are looking to really give us a bit of a show match here to try and secure that ticket all the way to Anaheim.
With so many kills, it must feel a little like ANZ, right? A lot of damage happening, constant fights occurring. Very fun to watch here, as SPT is nice and ahead in experience, about a half a level, and they're making a ploy for the bottom left boss. Hooligan, though, scouts it out.
All started off with that polybomb, so to speak, as they split the team apart, one going for the vision, the other going for the collapse around that bottom tower. And it was a race to find that initial kill, and if you get that 1 kill, you can really snowball it from there, but SPT showing that they are not afraid of this opposition.
I am worried for SPT, though, as we move past level 10. The ability for Ballistix to delete a target is quite high. But so is the truth here for SPT. Graviton Surge coming out, all the buttons being hit, and we no longer have a Genji on the field.
I mean, yeah. The members commit to that one. They say, look, there's no way that we interrupt this tribute capture, which is in position quite nicely for the Ballistix team. As a result, now SPT are with this Vala composition. Going to look to try and find some value and even things out. You can already see that Misaka is there acting as that mobile ward, as the tank that he is.
Skimmy, Ballistix got the curse here, but yet SPT takes the fort.
I mean, it's a case of looking like, hey, we don't want to go for this trade. In the same regard that this fight doesn't look too advantageous for us, we are winning that race level 13, so let's keep that as the narrative.
Well, SPT knows he leaves the fort in the top, so with the fort taking down on the bottom left side, they're able to head to the middle and defend what they can, and at least have some outposts to move to. But Ballistix, finally, with all their members coming back on the field, are able to set up on the bottom side. Now, they have 2 choices. Go for the fort here that's already low, or leave it be and move in for a boss. A boss typically isn't seen as often during a curse, but when they scouted multiple people rotating up, they grabbed it.
This is where it gets really scary. Typically speaking, during that curse phase, you don't want to be going for these objectives, but right now, I love the shot calling here. You can tell, given a draft that Ballistix have, they have so much boss control that they can get this one for free. They can rotate up top and say, look, that's going to push free with the curse. We go and try and take your one, and SPT don't realize this until it's far too late.
Yeah, they saw Hooligan on the material on the bottom side. He popped in for the fort, showed a little bit of vision, showing that he was down in that area. But after a couple of seconds, they decided to go ahead and commit to their boss in the top right corner, and Vala was able to burn it down, while at the same time, they had their Zarya in a position to scout if Ballistix would be coming up. So SPT takes a trade, and I would argue, if they defend this boss on the bottom side, don't lose anyone, they actually win out on the trade. They've wasted an entire curse, and they've gotten more kills, and they exchanged bosses.
I agree, and I believe when I saw it on the minimap that SPT were far too far away, but no, they definitely have the game sense to realize that Ballistix are a miss, and where else would they be during that cursed phase? So no, the trade does come across. We're all evened up here as level 13 is the go-to. And as you mentioned there, Trick, yeah, SPT are saying, well, thank you very much. You've wasted that big power spike, so to speak, of what the curse can offer you, and not really found as much value as you would else desire.
SPT has out-macroed Ballistix to a small degree here. Barely, but enough to where I'm actually impressed. Compare this to Ballistix versus Expert, where Expert felt like they were always in the back foot. They had great defense. SPT has actually been offensive in a way to give themselves the best defense.
Absolute miss is what we expect, none other than the Chinese team itself. But there goes the aggression. We're going to look to try and split members apart. The Aegis is fantastic, but it's a bit of a cluster. This should work for the Oriole, as the sanctification, as you mentioned, does come across. Zai's the first one to fall. SDE jumping into that back line, looking to try and deny that camp. But deny he will not, but he's looking to try and deny more kills. He goes for that double kill, and he's hungry for more.
And Zinjao just can't do enough damage here. Masaka's even wanting to fight. This is a 3v5, and for some reason, SPT is moving back in. They were able to grab the Merc camp, it looks like, but they need to get out of this fight here. SDE turns around, delivers a couple of punches to the face of the Murden, but he will finally retreat, and Ballistix takes a camp and a couple kills.
Fights like that really can go either way, in the sense that the sanctification will find value in a concentrated space, but same with Oriole. And it came down to that one single kill, and just like that, Ballistix run with it and say thank you very much. We will take that with a grain of salt, looking to get level 16 as well. The Holy Ground will find even more value once that's been unlocked. As now we slow the pace down, waiting for that next tribute to come about.
So I'm still curious about this level 1 pickup on the grenade talent, because at level 7, Zarya did pick up the talent Explosive Barrier, which means that whenever she is focused down, it's going to explode and apply some damage, which is going to happen because Genji or Sonya or even Karazin will most likely be near her, so she's wanting to get some additional damage out. But why not just go for Feel the Heat if you know you're going to be focused, and no matter where you stand, you're going to take a beating. I think SPT could have maybe put the Zarya build a little bit more synergistic, but nonetheless here, 15 and 15 for our team's Ballistic is working towards level 16 with Brightwing in the bottom. Sadly, no minions are near her, so she's going to have to play a little bit on the slower side to get that.
As much as we've seen an interesting meta evolve as this tournament has progressed on through, we've seen a bit of a diversity when it's come to the builds, as the regions show us what they personally think is the response and the answer to appropriately do what they need to in these matchups. That all-important level 16 now is unlocked. A big power spike for a lot of these members on the side of Ballistix.
This scout's actually really important for Misaka. He's controlling this little area, not because he wants to fight, but because he wants to keep that Vala and that Zarya alive that's right above them. He knew that a jump over the wall, especially with a Karazin, can delete his teammates, and he needed to set that experience. Good little play there by the Murden, and SPT looks like they will safely get level 16.
SPT trying to find some value in that mid lane. John
Deuces.
meanwhile was pushing top. And Ballistix, yeah, they were looking for that global trade. We've seen it happen on this map in particular, but no. He rocks up S a little bit too late. 1-1 when it comes to the curse.
I don't know, you guys don't have a camera, but Skimmy actually waved goodbye to Dahaka when he beat inside that bush there. That was awesome, man.
I mean, it's the Outback, right? He kind of looks like a dinosaur. I'm used to seeing those when I just walk down the street.
Dinosaurs leaving here, and they'll be back soon as we have Dahaka in the top lane, and here we have a tribute on the bottom side. SPT is primed for a team fight. All they need is a proper timing here for Dahaka.
They do, as Hooligan looks to jump on in. The Holy Ground is fantastic, and it splits the members apart, not to mention the Brightwing doing a lot of work there, and just like that, SC does SC things, and he finds one, he finds two, he goes for the triple, he wants more, he's hungry for the fourth, he collapses, and Soap, as squeaky clean as he is forced to run away, and Lickers wins.
That was ridiculous. SC actually got hit by a detainment strike, pushed into a wall, but he was saved long enough there with the Holy Ground as well as Zinfication to allow for him to turn around and turn SPT into a smoothie.
Smoothie, as healthy as that might be, it's not looking too good right now, as this keep is for sure going to fall on down. The respawn timers are quite quick.
This isn't game. This can't be game here.
They're looking like they're
moving in
for it. The sanctification is down for another 50 seconds. Emerald win in 12. Palm is the only big ultimate available right now.
Zarya's up. We'll have a Heroic as well. Have Soap in the side here, looking for that trap. You have the shield coming out. John, we're getting lower, getting healed up here. This core is getting lower and lower, down to 30%. Sonya will fall, but on the side, we have multiple members still alive for Ballistix, and they will focus the core and get the first win of the best of 3 series.
They commit to it. They don't know anything about passive there, right there, Drek. They go for the kill on towards the core. Obviously, they do have the Tyrael passive, which would have kicked in and added another portion of damage towards that core, but such a close game, all exploding after one decisive team fight.
And Gilly, we shouted out how strong Sonya can be here on Jongwa, and Jongwa had the most heroic damage here at 26,000 as he shredded every target he hopped onto. Let's go ahead and go to our analyst desk and see what they thought about that match.
Thank you very much indeed. I think that as much as Ballistix looked great at the very end of that game, there were moments where SPT looked significantly strong at the start, more so than I would say Expert did against Ballistix.
Yeah, SPT had the good rotations that we had talked about. They were good there, and they even had a really good team fight once they get to 10, but the time when Melody C was trying to stall out and stop the Sanctification, put it on the 10-second cooldown, and wasn't able to do that, that Sanctification went off, and that was a really big first of 2 team fights that spelled the end for SPT.
Yeah, that was the first one. Really good interruption on the Sank. I wanted to look at a replay, actually, show you guys the second fight there, this game-deciding team fight. Focus on the Genji here. We're going to see Brightwing go ahead and phase shift in. So as you see this, we're going to watch SC's positioning. It looks like the shift comes through too early if you think about protection, but look at what he does. This is what we call a Brightwing bomb. Pause it here, because look at this. You just see this split across, just totally. If we could bring it back, we can watch that one more time. You could see how you jump in there. Brightwing bomb separates everyone, and now look at the fight. SC's just able to line them up because there's no one to protect Xin in the back line. Those tanks are pushed to the left side. There's too much sustain there for the Burrow coming in on Dahaka. Yeah, he stays alive, but he can't do anything to peel anymore. So Soap, the last one to lives, but you get that 4-man wipe, and you just walk towards core.
The first fight that did go well for SPT was when Melody C was in trouble and he pulled people up.
Yep.
Traditionally, SPT does fare well in skirmishes, which is one reason why they're so good on Dragonshire, but it's when they dictate the skirmishes, and those Brightwing bombs didn't let them do that. That's when problems started to happen, when they were split apart. Also, Sa, he doesn't traditionally play a lot of Ario when he's with RPG, and so that you could see that there were some issues there with some detainment strikes missing and those kinds of things for him.
The whole thing about it is a lot of times we talk about execution of compositions, and some teams can draft well, they don't necessarily play it well. That is a composition where, for the most part, you can get value of 2 out of the 5 pieces, 3 out of the 5 pieces are functioning. But if all 5 pieces of that machine are functioning, it looks incredible. And the last few team fights in particular, the Sanctifications, the Brightwing bombs, everything about it makes that team look good.